Meka Whaitiri, 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, tēnā tātou katoa. Mr. Speaker, I'm glad to take a call on this bill, and like previous speakers from the Labour side, we hope that we can cast our vote in a personal manner. Mr. Speaker, I come from a loving rugby family. My dad represented the armed forces when he served in Korea. My 3 brothers all represented Hawke's Bay age groups, and my 2 sons are also following those traditions. And I did also kick the ball around in my younger days, Mr. Speaker, when living here in Wellington. But Mr. Speaker, when I look down at the title of this bill and see sale and supply of alcohol, extended licensing hours during the Rugby World Cup bill, nothing in that title makes me want to love rugby more than I currently love rugby. Nothing in that title makes me want to be more patriotic to get and wish, like our member Mr. Bishop said, to get the All Blacks over the line. Mr. Speaker, when I look at that title, there is one 7-letter word that's in there that causes my major concern, and that is the word alcohol. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, I cannot back this bill, and I'll tell you why. Monday this week, Mr. Speaker, I was honoured to attend the Waitangi Tribunal hearing into the Military Veterans Kaupapa Inquiry, Y2500, where veterans rose and spoke not only about the motivation of why they went to war, but the impacts it had on them when they came back. Mr. Speaker, we were fortunate to have 2 28 Māori Battalion veterans at that hearing, 2 Korean veterinarians at that, as well as other previous military servers. Mr. Speaker, at that hearing, we also heard from families that spoke about the trauma that was inflicted on families for many of those vets when they returned back. And alcohol, Mr. Speaker, played a key part in many of those families in those early days upon their fathers, their uncles' return. Mr. Speaker, it was with great sadness we heard the story of veterans who were once very proud men resorting to drinking to get over the horrors of the war. So it wasn't just the physical impact or the psychological impact of alcohol, Mr. Chair, but it was the devastation of Māori men leadership. And that came through those hearings that I attended. So it is with humility that I stand here, because 76 years on, Mr. Speaker, as a proud member of a Māori seat, that we are still suffering the lack of a lot of Māori men leaders. And so when I look at this bill, and yes, it's distinct from the support and love of rugby, and I love it like anybody else does in this country, and I too am as passionate for the All Blacks. But when I look at this bill, and when I sit in the hearing with veterans who served this country proudly and their families who spoke of the horror that the war and the impact of alcohol had on those families, I cannot, in good consciousness, support this bill. So this is one of the reasons why, Mr. Speaker, I cannot support it, for the memory of many of those soldiers that served and gave to this country. The other one, shortly, Mr. Speaker, is Raureka. Raureka is a community in Hastings. They are currently running a petition of not wanting another alcohol outlet in their community. I know, Mr. Speaker, that this bill is around allowing families to enjoy the World Cup. And when I look at the bill, I commend the Select Committee for the work they've done in trying to minimise harm. But I've outlaid the reasons why, in good consciousness, I cannot support this bill, because of the impact alcohol has had on many of our Māori families throughout Ikaro Rāwhiti, not just back as a result of the wars, but today in this time. Mr. Speaker, I stand here, like I said, for those families that spoke, and to say that I cannot support this bill. Kia ora tātou.
The next